Hello, I am Reese Wallace,
And I'm Luke Clancy.
and this is the Cedar Log. Hello and welcome. Today we'll be talking about Camp Hart from the 90s to the current day.
Reese, did you know that in about 1992, 1990, I forget the exact year, that the world crest that everyone wears on their uniform today was actually mandated at this time? Before then, it was not really essential or really anything to look at. But at this time, World Scouting decided to show off Scouting as a brotherhood instead of separate organizations running separate programs.
I did not know that. So in 1993 at Camp Hart, there was most of the campsites were condensed to the west side. So the east side was then kind of used to host the nature program, scoutcraft, boating, and archery. And then in 1995, Philadelphia and Valley Forge Council were announced to be merging in 1996, which is a pretty big deal. Any council major is a big deal. But it also kind of makes sense. The two have been working together for quite some time. They did a capital campaign together in the 50s that helped build Hart and the other camps. Not to mention, they both co-owned Rustica Falls for a little bit. So the merger kind of makes sense to me. And then in 1996, with the merger of the two councils, Delmont and Hart were also merged to form the Delmont Hart Scout Reservation. And that same year, in 1996, that was the last time Raven was used as a campsite. Its nickname was called Rocky Raven, so you can imagine why they stopped using it as a campsite. And today, it is used as the Scoutcraft area, which is much more fitting. And then in 1997, a third week of Cub Camp was added. 1998, and the property was renamed Musser Scout Reservation after Warren Pete Musser. So Hart was to be the main camp for Musser Scout Reservation, and in 1998, the property was renamed to Musser Scout Reservation after Warren Pete Musser, and the idea was for Hart to be the main camp and then for Delmont to be used on the weekends for Cub Scouts. And in 1998, construction began on Camp Garrison, which was planned to be used as a Cub camp.
So, Reese, before we head on to the 2000s, I just have a quick question.
Mm-hmm.
So, at this time, Hart was a Cub Scout camp and a Boy Scout camp.
Yeah, they were using Hart for both. So they were still doing Boy Scout stuff, but it seemed like more and more they were adding more Cub Scout programming to Hart.
Oh, okay, okay.
Yeah. And then in 2002, the archery range moved to the field by Hart Lodge, where it is today. And then that left only boating on the east side of Hart. And 2004 marks the end of Hart as a Boy Scout camp, and a Cub Scout summer camp was conducted instead. Fun fact, I was probably one of the first Cub Scout campers at Hart because I was born in 99, so I was a Tiger in '05. That sounds about right. Yeah, 6-year-old. Yeah, that's a Tiger.
Yeah.
So I believe I might have been one of the very first Cub Scout summer campers for the rebranded Hart.
Before we continue, I'd like to talk about the scouting world in 2010s to about current time and some of the big changes. As such, a big change that happened in 2014 is that the Scout Oath and Scout Law became universal between all programs in scouting. So that means that Cub Scouts, they now recite the Scout Oath and Law all the way up to venturing and explorers. They all, in ranks, have to recite the Scout Oath and the Scout Law. It's kind of cool to see a kind of a universal brotherhood between just the BSA with the Oath and Law.
Yeah, and the 2010s also marked a really, really important time for Hart Scout Reservation. So again, the Boy Scout camp at Hart kind of ended in 2004. So the Cub Scout, like full-fledged Cub Scout summer camp and other Cub Scout programs, had to grow and kind of establish a footing on a rather old property. Uh, so the 2010s was a really, really important time for this. So when I was a kid at Camp Hart on ugh. When I was a kid at Camp Hart camping as a Cub Scout, there was a lot of things that weren't there that are now there today. So one of the big things is a slingshot range was added in 2013. And then fun fact, I started working there in 2014. So a lot of these things I witnessed personally. In 2015, a STEM program was added and was at the old Falcon campsite at first. And then it kind of moved around to the Handicraft Lodge by uh, close to the Red Fox. And then eventually it moved to underneath Hart Lodge where it lives today. And then a bouldering wall and BMX track was built. I was on the work crews that helped build that. And fun fact, when I was the ordeal chair, I led one or two different ordeal crews on different OA weekends to actually clear the land for said BMX track. So a lot of OA labor and a lot of camp staff labor went to building the bouldering wall and BMX track. Speaking of the OA, fishing piers were added to Unami Creek at Hart in 2016 thanks to a donation from Unami Lodge 1. And in 2017, a Native American village program was added at the old Falcon campsite, and I was the director for that program area for 2 years as well. So Hart has kind of, if you think about it today, it has this long and rich history of being in the part of the scouting movement and having very critical roles in scouting, from different Cub Scout pilot programs to providing more camping space for the many scouts of the Philadelphia Council, and just being a place that generations of scouts and scouters have loved and adored. And that kind of leaves us to where we are today with just an ever brighter future for Camp Hart and Mustard Scout Reservation as a whole.
I just wanted to thank all of you so much for tuning in to the last few episodes. I know at the start it was a little shaky and we're trying to figure out everything out, but I think we are starting to get there. We're starting strong. Just wanted to announce that our next series that we're going to be talking about is Camp Delmont, which is attached to Hart and very near Hart. As well as, we're not going to start that in the next episode, but actually 2 episodes from now. Next episode, I'm going to say this now, it's actually a pre-recorded episode from a Unami Lodge virtual weekend where Reese actually got to interview past Hart staff members. So it's a pretty cool episode. It's going to be a little longer than our usual, about 10 minutes or so. It's now going to be an hour episode. Most of our interviews are going to be, it's all them talking, reminiscing, and just having a great time. So I hope you guys enjoy that, and see ya when I can see ya.